Hey friends, it's Laura. Welcome back. If you are new here, welcome. In today's planty video, I'm gonna be talking about expensive plants that I have bought that I regret buying. I think like all hobbies, plants are a sort of learn from your mistakes hobby. And there are definitely some plants that I splurged on and I now regret spending that amount of money on because they were disappointing as plants. They were not what I dreamed they would be, and I'm of course going to explain that for each plant. Hopefully you find this interesting. Maybe some of these plants are on your wish list and you can just take them off the wish list, or maybe you have this plant and you love it and I'm wrong. We can still be friends if we disagree on some of these plants. This is obviously just my opinion, my experience with these plants, but I'd love to hear from you if you disagree, for sure, but please be nice. So let's get started. First plant on the list, you might not even recognize what plant this is because it doesn't look at all like what it's supposed to look like. This is Philodendron Verde. And as you can see, the leaves are all green. They're healthy, this plant is very healthy, but the leaves are all green. And if you look this plant up, look up a photo, it is supposed to have these long heart-shaped leaves with beautiful mottled variegation. And when I got this plant, it did have stunning leaves. I actually had two of these plants. I bought two of them because I was so in love with them. They had these really beautiful long leaves. Each leaf had a different variegation pattern. It was absolutely stunning. It was what I dreamed. And then every leaf that came in my care was like this, all green. And I have tried many things. I've chopped it, I've kept it outside during the summer, I've kept it right under a grow light, I've put it in my cabinet. And this is the best we can get. I have read that it's heat and light and sort of the seasonal long days that make this plant produce its variegation. But I can't get it to variegate. It might be a me problem, but I have tried. I have done so many experiments. I have talked about those experiments. I have tried my best, but this plant just wants to be green in my care. I loved this plant for so long before I bought one. And actually, this plant is what made me, well, didn't make me, what inspired me to import plants the first time is I could not find a Philodendron Verde anywhere in Canada for, you know, a reasonable price and shipping and all that. So I decided to import two of them from Indonesia along with a bunch of other plants. And I am glad I did that because it was a really great experience and I got lots of really cool plants out of it. And I have learned a lot. I've tried a lot of experiments on this plant, but I wouldn't buy it again. I don't think that this plant does well in a regular house environment. I have definitely seen people who have this plant. It's thriving with variegation, but they have it either outside or in some really tropical greenhouse situation, not just in their living room. And so for that reason, I do regret buying this plant, but I still have it. I haven't let go of it. Firstly, because not many people want to buy a reverted plant, but also I do have hope that maybe someday it will just happen somehow. I don't have a heat mat, and people have said try a heat mat. I don't want to buy a heat mat just for one plant basically, but I do germinate seeds and things like that. So maybe someday it will be worth my while to have a heat mat, and then maybe this plant will get its variegation back. It's also not a hideous plant just with the green leaves. Like, it is a beautiful plant. It kind of reminds me of a Philodendron Billietiae. I mean, their leaves are much skinnier and longer, but there's similarities, and it is cute and it is healthy, but you know, it's not worth the money that I paid for it. Now this one, I cannot remember exactly how much it was. I tried to find the receipt, but I want to say it was maybe $60 per plant, and they were sizable plants for sure, and that was an extremely good deal at the time. Now I have seen Verdes pop up in nurseries, and they're sometimes like under $20. So prices have gone down in general, but I've considered buying another one and just starting fresh, but I just can't rationalize that. I have to, and this is what they look like in my care. So I haven't been able to rationalize buying another one. But that's my opinion on this plant, that in a regular living room, it's not gonna have variegation. And I don't think my two plants are duds, first of all, because they were both the same. Second of all, the seller I bought them from is incredible and I have had really good experiences with them. And thirdly, I have tried many different techniques to get the variegation back. So it's not that I'm doing something wrong, I don't think. But that's a lot of information about Paraiso Verde and why I regret buying it. If you have this plant and it has beautiful variegation in your living room, please let me know what you're doing. I am very open to trying things I haven't tried yet. But for now, this is what we've got, and yeah, I wouldn't buy another one. Next on my list is my Syngonium albo, and I regret spending a lot of money on this for two reasons. First of all, this plant is now very, very cheap. You can find this plant for like $5 now, and I would buy it for $5. Honestly, it is a beautiful plant. Some of the leaves are absolutely beautiful. I don't have a ton of variegation right now, and I will talk about why that is. That's my number two reason. But some of the leaves are absolutely beautiful. If you love Syngonium, you will love Syngonium albo. I think, though, I don't know why, but this plant is always, always, always crawling with thrips. Like, I am constantly treating it. I am constantly isolating it. It has just always had thrips, and I don't know why it can't get rid of them. Like, I do a very intensive treatment on this plant all the time, and it just keeps attracting the thrips. Like, in some ways it's kind of good to have this plant, because when this plant has thrips, I immediately treat all my other plants and then they're fine. And so I'm constantly cutting it back. That's why it is so small right now. It used to be really, really big, and then I forgot to water it and it totally died off, and then it grew back, and then it got thrips. So me personally, I don't know if it's just my personal plant that has lots of thrips and I can't get a handle on it, or if it's the actual plant. I know some plants just are more attractive to certain pests, and in my home, this is the thrips magnet. So those are the two reasons. Not very pest resilient at all, and then it's now super cheap. So I regret spending a lot of money back then. And you know, the photos of this plant are always stunning. It photographs beautifully. So you see the photos and you just think, I need that plant. It is so perfect. But like I said, if you find this plant for $5, I think it's definitely worth $5, maybe even $10. But keep an eye on the pests. And if you see it in the store and it already has pests, I would not try to rescue it, because I've been trying to rescue this and it wasn't even a rescue plant. And I have considered getting rid of it, but then it sort of has a hold on me, because it dies off. I cut off all the plants to thrips. I'm like, oh, I should just throw it out. And then it starts putting out beautiful leaves like that one. And then I'm like, oh, I should keep it. But it's often isolated. It's often in another room. Kind of forget about it. And if I forget about it, then probably it wasn't worth the money. But I know for a lot of people, like $40, $50 isn't a lot of money. But for a plant, especially a plant that's now super common, that was a lot of money to spend. So I personally regret buying the Syngonium albo. All right, next plant I have talked about quite a bit recently, because it is finally showing progress. But for the first, I don't know, 3 years of me owning this plant, it produced nothing. So I do regret spending a lot of money on it. It's now still fairly expensive, I believe, at least in Canada. And that is the Hoya Varigata. So I've talked about this vert planter before. I have a few Hoyas on here, but I'm talking specifically about the Hoya, which is this heart-shaped leaf plant, which is so beautiful, right? And so this is Hoya Chelsea. Just ignore that. I love Hoya Chelsea. But I'm talking about the Hoya. Now, I have talked about it in recent videos because it is growing now that it's on the vert planter. So there is like a new leaf right there. And then there's another new leaf that I just discovered as I was getting ready to talk about this right there. So it's now, of course, growing. I think it loves the vert planter, which is awesome, and I am happy. But this plant is so cute, and I feel like everyone is so obsessed with Hoya caryi, but it doesn't grow. Like it does not grow at all for me, at all. Like it would put out some leaves and they would die, but I don't think any of these leaves grew in my care. And like I said, I've had it for 3 years. I have heard that the Hoya caryi that isn't variegated, which I believe is just called Hoya caryi, I think that one grows a little bit better, but I don't know, man. I have this undergrow light. It has lived in the cabinet, no growth at all, except for little leaves that die. And I have heard that, you know, there's these like mites that some Hoyas have, that maybe that's, I don't know, guys. I have looked for pests. I don't see any pests. I fertilize it. I was taking such good care of Hoya caryi because I was obsessed with it, but it didn't grow. The fact that it's growing now on the vert planter is a shock to me, and maybe it's a testament to the vert planter, or maybe this plant is just ridiculous. And like I said, those little leaves, we'll see if they actually mature, because I have seen little leaves before on this plant and they don't survive. So we'll see. But I am feeling a lot more optimistic. However, would I spend a ton of money on Hoya caryi? No, I would never do that again. Even the green one, which I do love the look of and I would really love to have, and if I ever see it for a good deal, I will buy it, but I'm not gonna spend $50 on a plant that apparently doesn't like to grow in my house. And I do love the look of it. I think it's so cute and unique. And so for that reason, maybe I don't regret buying it, but I regret spending a large amount of money. I'm trying to think, again, I think it was for a large one. I mean, it's a Hoya, so it wasn't that large. I think it was about $50. Again, I know for a lot of you that's not a lot of money, but it is for a plant. I think that's a lot of money for a plant that could die or not grow. On the other hand, and this is like an argument that I do fully understand, if a plant is really difficult to grow, then maybe it should be expensive, right? The person who grew it probably spent a lot of time and resources growing it compared to other plants. So in that way, I do understand why the price tag is higher for Hoyas in general. They grow slowly. They are a bit more difficult to grow, especially the Hoya caryi. So I do understand why the price is high, which is very different from the Syngonium albo. Syngonium albo is so easy to grow, grows quickly. It should not be expensive. I do get why this plant and Hoyas in general are more expensive. I just wish I didn't spend that money on it. I should have waited to get a cutting from someone, or maybe just learned more about it and learned that it never grows. And then I probably wouldn't have bought it. But if I do see the Hoya caryi green for somehow a really good deal, or maybe someone trades me a cutting or something, I definitely would be interested in trying that just to see the difference. Maybe it would be a better experience, but I'm not planning to spend a large amount of money on that plant if ever I see it. Other Hoyas grow in my care, just as if you're new to this channel, I do have other Hoyas. They do grow, they are doing well. It's just the Hoya caryi that I struggle with, or it struggles with me, I don't know. It's really cute though. This one, I have a feeling that other people can relate. This is a Philodendron pink princess. And it's a cool plant, it's a great plant. It is now available at Walmart for like $5, Canadian Tire $5, Rona $5. But if you've been collecting plants for a while, you know that pink princess used to be hundreds of dollars. And at the time, it seemed reasonable because it's a pink plant. I bought this during the pandemic, which was when plants were very expensive. And I bought a cutting for $70. And again, if you don't think that's a lot of money, good for you. I think that was a lot of money for a cutting, and I think that is the most money I ever spent on a cutting. And the cutting honestly didn't do that well. I have grown that out and repropagated it, and I also got another little one from a garden center once prices started coming down. But you know, pink princess, There's so many videos out there on how to promote more pink variegation, more light, chopping it, all these different things. I have tried different methods, but this is kind of the most pink that I get. It's still really, really beautiful. I think as a plant, I think it's beautiful, and I would definitely buy this for maybe even $20. I think it's definitely worth that, because even when it doesn't have the pink variegation, just the regular leaves, they're almost like a dark lord color. They're really dark green and almost like burgundy when they come out. And I think that's a really cool plant. The fact that it has pink makes it a really cool plant. But it was definitely not worth the price that these were being sold for a couple years ago. And again, especially, it's kind of like the Syngonium. It grows super quickly, it grows super easily, so it's not worth that, if you know what I mean. I mean, anything's worth the price we pay for it, I suppose. I regret spending the amount of money I did at the time. I was really happy when I got it, so maybe that's worth it, I don't know. But I do wish I would have waited, because now you can get these huge, beautiful ones, really, really variegated pink princesses under $20, and I have considered buying one because the ones in the store are often prettier than mine, but I just can't really explain that to myself. Like, I have one, it's healthy, it has pink on it. I can't just buy another one when I already spent $90 on this one, if that makes sense. I just wanna enjoy this one, make sure it's happy, and I think that's all I want to do with Philodendron Pink Princess, but not worth $90 for a cutting. I know that now. So this plant is Rhaphidophora decursiva, also goes by Dragon's Tail, although there's some controversy over that. So I'm going to refer to it as Rhaphidophora decursiva. I don't really understand the full Dragon's Tail controversy. Like, I think Dragon's Tail is technically a different plant. I'm not fully sure. Like the Pink Princess, this plant was highly sought after for a while. It was pretty expensive, and it was really, I don't know, at least where I was, it was kind of marketed as a really special plant, so shiny, and it grows super quickly. And okay, it does have these beautiful fenestrated leaves, gorgeous. They are very shiny. It does grow fairly quickly, but, and this is why I don't love this plant, most of its growth is just runners with no leaves. Like, it will put out runners, and I have tried letting them go because, you know, like Hoyas, sometimes they just go and then produce leaves. I've let them get really, really long, and they're not that pretty to look at, and they don't do anything in my house. I've tried giving them things to attach to, thinking that's what the plant needed. Didn't love that. So now I just chop them off unless there is some leaves on them. Some of them have produced leaves, like this was sort of a runner to start off, and now it has beautiful shiny leaves. I love my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma is back there, and the bottom part is bald. That's the part you can see, but the rest of it is really, really beautiful. And I kind of thought this plant would be like that. It would just grow, and I could, you know, stake it to the wall, and it would be a really eye-catching plant. But it just puts out runners. This plant isn't that expensive anymore, I don't think, but it used to be really expensive, and I don't think it's worth it. I think if you're okay with it being a bushy plant, which I think this looks really cute. I don't have it in a really cute pot because I'm planning to take this to work, but if you're okay with it being a bushy plant, great. But in my experience, it's not going to grow and vine the way that one might expect it to. It's gonna put out lots of runners, and you just kind of have to snip those off. I just don't love it. I don't love this plant. I have kept it because I don't know why I've kept it. I probably should just give it away. But right now, like on the camera, it looks really cute, and that fenestrated leaf is really cute. Yeah, I don't have a ton to say. Like, it's not like a bad plant. It's just not my favorite plant, and I don't know why it was so sought after. Like, I don't know why there was such hype around it and why it was so expensive, because in the end, it's, you know, it's just a plant. It's not that exciting. Maybe it's because of the fenestrations that is unique, but overall, I don't love the Rhaphidophora decursiva, and I don't fully understand the hype. and I regret buying it. This one I regret buying it all. Like, I would be happy not having this plant. So maybe I should just give it away. All right, this plant, I feel kind of bad talking badly about this plant because it's so cute. And it's actually, I just noticed this right now. It's growing little aerial roots, which is very cute, and maybe I should propagate it. I feel bad talking negatively about this one. This leaf is dead. Okay, this is Philodendron Brandy, or Philodendron Brandianum. Philodendron Brandy is what I call it. And this is a philodendron, but it needs very high humidity, at least in my experience. So I bought this plant, again, I bought it as a cutting. I think the cutting was like 20 or 30 bucks, which was like a tiny cutting. And I feel like nowadays that's like maybe similar pricing still, but it needs to live in a cabinet to grow. This plant almost died so many times. Like, I was able to root the cutting. I was able to transfer it into soil. It grew a couple leaves, but the leaves would just always die. It wouldn't get very big. It just struggled so much. Then once I got a greenhouse cabinet, I thought, why not pop this in? Because it was still so tiny. So I popped it in, and then it started growing like crazy. As you can see, it's got tons of leaves, and it is definitely very happy in the cabinet. And now I have no issue growing it. But I would say as a philodendron, it's really, really finicky. And I feel like philodendrons, most people expect them to be fairly hardy, grow fairly easily, and not need to live in a finicky situation. And I just feel like there's so much hype about this plant, and maybe things have changed. I don't know, but I feel like when I bought it, there was tons of hype. The photos that I saw were like these giant heart-shaped silvery leaves. And I mean, this is really cute, but I would not say this is an incredibly eye-catching plant, which is, I feel, how this was kind of marketed or talked about for a long time, that this is a stunning, precious plant. And it's getting almost 80% humidity. It's getting tons of light, and this is as big as it is. This plant, I think, is 3 years old. And this is what we have to show, which compared to other philodendrons, it's just really not that exciting. And I do feel bad talking about this plant because she is so cute, and I think she is doing her best. She's growing, she's putting out these little aerial roots, which are too cute. But I don't know, it's just like, personally, I don't think this is worth that much money for the size and just the kind of meh. And yes, the leaves are silvery, but they're not like blindingly shiny like a philodendron silver sword. Okay, those leaves are silvery, they are glowing. Even I have a philodendron soderoy, and that plant was not even that expensive, and those leaves are super silvery. And I just, compared to my other philodendrons, I don't think this is that exciting, and I spent more money on this than a lot of my other philodendrons. So this plant, you know, if you see it for a good deal and you want to try it in a cabinet, go for it. But if you're expecting to have this huge climbing majestic plant, you might be disappointed, and I recommend you not spend a ton of money on it. All right, friends, that is all from me for today. Hopefully you learned something, or at least were entertained. And if you disagree with me, if I mentioned one of your favorite plants, let me know, but please be nice. And maybe I'm missing something about those plants that I don't understand. But I wish you all a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.